This year, I have discovered one of my new favorite book trilogies. It's a series about magical teenagers at a magical school. It has a similar premise to Harry Potter in that way, but it gets done in a very different way. The series is called the Scholomance series, and the first book is called A Deadly Education. The books are written from the perspective of third-year student Galadriel, or Elle for short. Elle is a witch from Wales whose mother is a world-famous healer, and her father died saving her mother's life. And Elle describes the balance of the universe to be that due to all of the goodness and light in her parents, she is, of course, an immensely powerful witch built to destroy and work in the ways of evil. And as the story progresses, we learn that Elle is an incredibly powerful witch, and that she's capable of using magic that nobody should be able to do alone. One example that we get to see is when she casts a spell in a couple of minutes that takes a normal group of wizards, of 12 wizards, to cast an hour. So she is able to do stuff much more quickly and much more powerfully than others who are older than her. So she is wildly powerful, and eventually everyone in the school realizes that. But only her closest friends realize that she is pretty much incapable of learning simple spells. Elle has one friend from China who tries to teach her a spell that 3-year-olds learn, but 17-year-old Elle can't master it after weeks of lessons. Throughout the series, we see ways that she struggles to use simple cleaning spells, always either using her hands to do it herself or resorting to a spell that is originally meant for destruction but happens to also clean up the mess. Elle is just too powerful, and she has to wrestle with that fact, and it isn't always convenient for her to be so powerful. In our text for today, we meet Naaman, a Syrian general who suffers from a skin disease. At this time, he is Israel's enemy. And oddly enough, the story tells us that Naaman has secured a victory by the hand of the Lord of Israel. As a general, Naaman is high up in the power structure of Syria, and the victory that came by the Lord has made Naaman highly favored in the king's eyes. His wife has an Israelite servant girl who mentions a prophet in the land of Samaria, saying that he would be able to cure him of his skin disease. And Susan fills in what the lectionary cuts out in the next couple of verses, that after hearing what the girl had to say, he goes to his king and tells him about this prophet. So the king sends Naaman with a letter to the king of Israel telling him to cure Naaman of his skin disease. But the king of Israel interprets this impossible demand impossible because he knows that he can't cure him of the disease. He interprets it as a threat. But the prophet Elisha hears of this demand and so tells the king to send Naaman to his house. When he gets there, Naaman is horribly disappointed and frustrated to discover that Elisha has sent a messenger with his healing instructions, his simple instructions. Go, wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. But that's not what Naaman wanted to hear. Naaman wanted the fanfare of arm waving and calling on the name of the Lord. He wanted the spectacle and drama of a miraculous healing like we know in stories. And if he is going to get such simple instructions, he can't believe that he is being told to wash in the Jordan, river that he views as lesser than his rivers back home. So he gets angry and starts to go away. As he's leaving, it's his servants who speak up. They ask him, "Father, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it?" They point out to him that these instructions might be simple, but maybe this simple thing is all he needs to do to be cured. And so Naaman does go down to the Jordan and washes 7 times, and his skin is made like new. They return to Elisha's house, and he makes that declaration, "Now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel." Like El, Naaman has a hard time handling simple instructions. He's probably used to getting things done how he wants them to be done. He's usually the one in command. So when he goes to Elisha's house and a messenger, not even Elisha himself, gives him instructions to just go down to the river and wash a few times, Naaman can't believe that this is what he has made this long journey for. In his mind, a prophet should summon the power of God and in the waving of his hand cure Naaman's skin disease. And he's so disappointed that he turns away and leaves in a rage. How often are we like Naaman? We live in a city that is full of powerful people. We are highly educated and we work hard. We too have gained favor from our superiors. We're used to working hard to achieve what we want. And because we are surrounded by other successful, driven people, we must get ahead and beyond them to be noticed. And I think a lot of times when things look easy, we doubt their reliability. We have made idols, gods even, of power and influence, of money and material, of financial and social capital. We strive to gain more and more of each of these, forgetting to strive to grow closer and closer to God. Like Naaman, we would rather listen for a prophet's voice to demand us to do something difficult than to hear simple directions that we've already been given. We're afraid of releasing our power as we yield to the power of God. We come to this worshiping space each week, ready for an encounter with God, but I don't think that we're always able to continue that outside of this time. To declare that God is the most important thing in our lives challenges the way the rest of our culture would have us think and behave. I know how easy it is to get caught up in thinking about all of the other things that need to happen on a daily basis, rather than thinking about how I can strive to grow closer to God on a daily basis. Personal faith and practices of devotion are really hard to cultivate. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be better Christians, but we're not always willing to be vulnerable as we shape our devotion. One thing that I've noticed in every church that I've worked in is a general lack of desire to pray in front of others. Public speaking is one thing. Public prayer puts us on a whole nother level of vulnerability. It requires us to let go of a piece of ourselves. A lot of young people and a lot of older people are very uncomfortable doing it. But what if I told you that praying in front of others isn't any different than praying by yourself? You don't need to be the most poetic speaker. You don't have to have the most eloquent turn of phrase. You don't even need to speak the whole time. Prayer is incredibly intimate, whether we do it alone or with others. And prayer is what you make of it. My praying is not the same as Molly's, is not the same as Julie's, is not the same as anyone else's. And your praying won't be either. Our prayer and our faith can exist in simple ways. Prayer is one place in our lives that will always be open to simplicity. We can learn from Naaman and have our minds open to the fact that God doesn't require us to make our faith more difficult. We do that to ourselves. And with Naaman, it isn't until his servants come to him that his eyes are open to the possibility that the simple instructions will actually be enough to heal him. Through this story, we get shown repeatedly how the unexpected character, the lesser character, is the one to reveal the truth. First, we have the slave girl from Israel. She comes from the enemy kingdom, but she's the one who shares about the foreign prophet who can heal Naaman. Then there's the messenger from Elisha's house, who shares the directions rather than Elisha himself. And then finally, it's Naaman's servants who convince him to at least try Elisha's directions. Each of these characters in their social circles has little to no power, and yet they are the ones through whom God is showing Naaman a new way. Far too often, we approach our life and our faith like Naaman does, expecting the difficult, dramatic way of doing things rather than paying attention to those things we might think of as simpler. We're used to our social location mandating a certain level of effort and expertise. But God shows us time and time again that our devotion and our faith don't need those. Our devotion asks simply that we believe our God is our God, and that we follow no others. Favorite Bible verse sums up what our God requires of us: to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. And if we can do these things, then maybe we too, like Naaman, will be able to proclaim that now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. Amen.